We've been trying to talk about Jarin Stevenson for like a week here on the show now, and it's finally happening because I've got a wild hair I want to explore that I think you might just be intrigued by.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and I really want to thank you for joining us on today's episode. You everydayers, what's up? So glad you're here. If you're not an everydayer, come be one. Join us all 5 days of the work week. 30 minutes a day, hopefully get you through your ride to work or whatever else, the dishes, I don't know, whatever works for you. Hey, before we get into the show, I want to apologize for Monday's show quality in terms of picture and some of the audio. There was some kind of weird internet thing going on at Shady Acres. That's what I call my house. And I just couldn't get it to stop. And so what you got was the best of many takes at trying to record the show. So apologies. Thanks for sticking with us. And, man, hopefully that is a rare occurrence for us. Okay. Coming up, though, on the show today, we got a little cryptic KJ Smith tweet happening over Sunday. We're going to talk about what that might mean. Might it factor into this Jarin Stevenson conversation? We've got some scholarship offers from Coach Davis in the class of 25. We've got a new transfer for the women's basketball team and some sad transfer out news for the football team. But first, I want to talk about Jarin Stevenson. As we know, as we've talked ad nauseum about at this point, there are 2 scholarships remaining in on the basketball roster for this upcoming season. And the big question becomes what to do. I've loved reading all your answers on our community tab on the YouTube page with what you think Carolina should do with it. I mean, it's all over the place. Don't use them. Use one. Reclassifications, transfer portal, backup 5, all of these things. I love that there's so many options out there. But here's the deal. Look. Sometimes it's just fun to play a quirky out there what if type of scenario. And I want to throw you one that is a little bit of a curveball. And you can already pick up well, maybe you can. See if you can guess before I start talking about it. We're talking Jarin Stevenson, so there's a clue. I have long said I would absolutely love for him to round out the 2024 recruiting class. That is already number 1 in the nation, is absolutely stacked with Elliot, Cadeau, Ian Jackson, Drake Powell, and James Brown. By the way, we mentioned it on yesterday's show, but if you haven't been keeping tabs, these dudes are already killing it at EYBL and elsewhere that they're playing. But Jarin Stevenson, number 12 in the class of 2024 right now at 247 Sports, the number 1 power forward in the class. And as a junior this year was the North Carolina Player of the Year. This dude is 6'10", 200 pounds, but is that true stretch 4 that Hubert Davis is looking for? I mean, my man is smooth. That shot is so smooth. It's beautiful. Out to the 3-point line. It's phenomenal. Not only can he run the break, he can lead the break, getting out with great ball handling skills. Jarin Stevenson is a really good basketball player. But here's what I want to explore today. Even though I've been very excited about the thought of him joining that class of 2024, what if he weren't part of North Carolina's 2024 class? And no, I don't mean that in the bummer way of like he goes to Virginia or to some other school. I mean it in this way. What if instead of being part of Carolina's 24 class, what if Jarin Stevenson took one of those final 2 remaining scholarships and came in as that power forward that Carolina really still needs? Now, I know there's other stuff that we've already talked about with other personnel, and in fact, we're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but this is my fun hypothetical, so I get to do what I want. What if Jarin Stevenson comes? You might wonder, is that even a thing, or are you just pulling that out of complete thin air? Well, I'm not completely ridiculous and silly. It is very much something he has talked about. Here's an example. This was an interview with 247's Travis Branham back in early March, so like just shy of 2 months ago. He said, right now, it is just an option, and it meaning reclassifying. There's nothing set in stone. I am still seeing things out and testing what the school's got and seeing if it is the best option. I think the odds are between 40 and 50% to reclassify. And again, that was back in early March. Things certainly can and will change as we go through his development. There's all these options on the table, and he and his parents have talked about that, the overwhelming nature of everything available to them. But in an even more recent article that I read on AOL.com, laying out all these possible options, keep in mind, his dad was a professional basketball player overseas. His mom played for North Carolina. That's right. They both helped coach his high school team. But one of the things that he mentions, Jarin himself mentions in that article, is that the reclass option is more and more enticing to him if the right spot is available at the right school. And is that North Carolina? Is that coming early? You don't know. But in my dream scenario, I like to think of this as a possibility. So what I want to look at is this. If Jarin Stevenson does commit to North Carolina, and if he does reclass, what might that look like for this upcoming season? What might it mean? Well, we're going to talk about that, look at it, explore it a little bit more. And we'll do that in just a second. But first, I need to tell you about today's sponsor, FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays, they are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Place that first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if that first one doesn't win. So go check out the action going on right now for tonight's MLB games, and who knows what you might be able to do. And that'll help you make sure you don't miss that chance at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked on to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. As we get back into talking more about the potential of Jarin Stevenson reclassifying and what it might mean for the 23-24 Tar Heels, let me also remind you that the NFL draft is coming up starting on Thursday, just 2 days away. And we at Locked On have a mock draft special just for you. It's here and it's bigger than ever. Follow along with all 32 teams' first picks in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience that only we at Locked On can deliver. All episodes are available now on the Locked On NFL Draft page on YouTube or wherever else you get podcasts. All right, so I'm throwing this out there, this idea that Jarin Stevenson, a very highly skilled, tall, 6'10", 200 pounds power forward, could bring to Carolina if he were to choose not only to commit to Carolina, but to reclassify and come this year. My man's been balling out at EYBL already, and this is a very real possibility. So you know that I got my rainbow scholarship chart, and I want to show what it might look like, or what it would look like if Jarin Stevenson decided to come this year. So you can see this on screen for those of you watching. Remember, Carolina right now, as we talk, has 2 available scholarships still left. And that follows the 6 transfers out and the 4 thus far coming in, plus everything else that, you've got Zayden High and Simeon Wilcher coming in, but you've also got Pete Nance and Leaky Black leaving out of eligibility. All of that nets 2 more scholarships. So what would happen if Jarin Stevenson takes one of those 2 remaining scholarships? Well, we've talked about, feels like, you'd feel pretty comfortable with what you have in the backcourt right now. There's essentially 6 backcourt personnel of the 13 scholarships on next year's roster. As you go from freshman up to fifth-year senior, that would be Simeon Wilcher, Seth Trimble, DeMarco Dunn, RJ Davis, Paxton Wojcik, and Cormac Ryan. Those are your 6 backcourt players right now. And then when you think wings and front court guys, you've got Zayden High, Jalen Washington, Harrison Ingram, Jae'lyn Withers, and then Armando Bacot. So you would have 5 guys that are either 3s, 4s, or 5s. But keep in mind, the front court itself is pretty thin. Right now, you've got Armando, you've got Jalen Washington. You've got Harrison Ingram could do that, but we think of him more as a 3 for this team. But you've also got Jae'lyn Withers, and so that's a possibility there too. But to add someone like Jarin Stevenson into that front court mix balances things out between the backcourt and the front court a little more, but gives you a highly athletic, skilled 4. Not that Jae'lyn Withers isn't that. Not that you wouldn't want to test Jalen Washington's ability to do that. But you look at what Jarin Stevenson can already do. And I don't know that he slots right into the starting 4. That's the question for me. And I want to look more at the starters here in a second. But could he at the very least come in and challenge for that position, push other players to help see what is possible? Yeah, absolutely. He could do that. So when I think about the starters, on yesterday's show, we talked about, right as things stand right now with the personnel that's on the roster, RJ Davis at the 1, Cormac Ryan at the 2, Harrison Ingram at 3, Jae'lyn Withers at 4, and Armando Bacot at 5. And so if Stevenson decided to do this, reclass and come, you're looking at, could he be that 4? Would he, as a freshman, given his skill set, supplant Jae'lyn Withers? That's a great question. At the very least, I think the two of them would push each other in a way that would be really beneficial to this team, as that competition, that challenge for that starting spot would be great. Now, I would love it if Stevenson would come in and just kind of what I said about the potential of Simeon Wilcher, just coming in, and because he plays at such a high level, would just like essentially demand to be the starting shooting guard. Great. You love it. And then Cormac Ryan keeps pushing, and whatever that is. Is that what might happen at the 4 if Jarin Stevenson comes and pushes Jae'lyn Withers? That would be interesting. But here's another thing that I don't know what to do with this, and I've seen a lot of chatter and banter about it. On Sunday night, KJ Smith, the Jets' son who played for Carolina after transferring from Pacific, and graduated a couple years ago and has now been working into being a commentator and doing those things. My man hadn't tweeted anything since March 23rd. In fact, on March 23rd, he tweeted, "Still upset my Tar Heels didn't make the tournament." Yes, we all were, KJ. So it's essentially been a month. And then on Sunday night, a month later, April 23rd, his next tweet says this: "Heard some UNC basketball news at EYBL today that is shocking." Literally, this is a quote. "Shocking. I have to call coaches to confirm, but would be big for next year," with big in all caps. So KJ Smith is at EYBL, where obviously this year's seniors are getting ready to be at school. So they're not there. It's the junior class, upcoming seniors that are there doing work. And so it is all these 24 guys. And so you hear this news and he says shocking. And when you see that, you think shocking could be very good or it could be very bad. Doesn't seem like shocking indicates anything in between, but it doesn't indicate goodness or badness. Well, thankfully, we did get some clarification. A bit later, someone tweeted back at him and just said, "Wow, is it good news or bad news? Help us out, KJ. Don't leave us hanging." And thankfully, KJ quote tweeted this, and just one word, all caps, great. And so KJ Smith is at EYBL, around all these coaches, around all these high-level elite players, basically saying there is some great, shocking news that he's hearing about UNC basketball, but needs to call coaches to confirm. The other part of that is he didn't specify, like, is he meaning the UNC coaches? He needs to check in with them. Or is it some kind of news where he needs to check around with various coaches around the country to see if they would verify it or things like that? He also doesn't specify, I should say, if it's personnel related in terms of a player. It could just be news that he heard about, like maybe there's somebody coming to Carolina already that's playing better than expected. Like, I just say that to say there's a lot of possibility of what this news could be. For me, though, to bottom line it, I think it's news of the nature that is about a potential incoming player, whether it is one of these guys reclassifying of the guys that are already committed to Carolina, whether that's, really the only two we've heard possibilities with that are Ian Jackson or Elliot Cadeau, whether it's Jarin Stevenson being really in on Carolina and really in on reclassifying. It could be Mackenzie and Bacot news. It's kind of been silent on what's all going on there, which is fine. You expect there after that decommitment, it's being played close to the chest, as we see have happened a lot. But it's got me thinking about what potentially it could be. And there's no reason why this couldn't be some type of Jarin Stevenson news. And if you've been tracking with the show, you know that we've been talking about having a Jarin Stevenson conversation for a while. So this is not me just having this Jarin Stevenson conversation on the hopes that that's what KJ Smith is talking about. It's just that coincidentally they happen to align today. But with what KJ Smith tweeted and with his follow-up, unless it's just bluffing or it's not a thing, it's got to be some kind of massive news, because the dude hasn't tweeted for a month again, then tweets this and is following up. So we're just going to have to wait and see on it. But it very well could be something with Jarin Stevenson. So also, by the way, I'd love your takes on what KJ Smith is meaning. Wrong answers only, right? Like, just jump in and leave hilarious stuff. I don't even want to guess what you're going to come up with, but I want to just see ridiculous answers about what KJ Smith actually means here. Give me your best work and let's see what's happening. So anyway, I would love to see Jarin Stevenson reclassify and commit to North Carolina and come on this year. I think it could really help front court depth, and he's potential starter level good. And so let's see what happens with it. Well, we also know, friends, that Coach Hubert Davis is already offering out some scholarships in the class of 25. I want to update you on that, as well as some great news for women's basketball and some help they're getting. Stay with us, and we'll talk about all that in just a second. Okay, the class of 2025 for the men's basketball team is now up to 3 offers. So this would be current sophomores that would be rising juniors next season. And before I even talk about these 3 guys, one thing just philosophically I want to note about the approach to recruiting in this day and age. With the transfer portal becoming such a thing now, one of the questions I'm really curious to see, not just with North Carolina, but programs all over the nation, do they still continue to recruit the high school ranks as heavily as they did? And I mean that both in terms of amount of time given to it and number of players they want to bring in. Because if the transfer portal is going to continue to be so wild and wacky, do you even want to take much chance with incoming freshmen, or do you want to wait and see what they become in college somewhere else and then bring them in? I think we're going to see a mixed bag on that. We're going to see some programs really stay heavy in high school, and I think we're going to see some back off on high school recruiting and really lean in to transfer portal recruiting. So keep your eyes on that to see what Coach Davis does, especially, in terms of the 24 class. He's showing, I'm still all in on high school recruiting, because I got the number 1 class in the nation. What up? Let me zip up my quarter zip for that one, because that's incredible. But keep watching as these recruiting classes come and come and come. So that all said, there are 3 offers currently out in the class of 25 for Coach Davis and the Tar Heels, all of them to elite high-level 5-star players. The first one happened back in September. We've already talked about it on the show, but let me just remind you, it is Isaiah Harwell, who is a elite 6'5" shooting guard. But the 2 more that are coming out now have happened in rapid succession, and I would imagine this makes sense as you see EYBL picking up and all the AAU stuff starting to come for this year. So on Sunday, Coach Davis, or at least we learned about it on Sunday, offered Darryn Peterson, who is another shooting guard. He is out of Cuyahoga, I believe is how you say it, Falls, Ohio. 6'5", 195, so very similar to Isaiah Harwell. At this point, you're just casting a lot of, like, you find a guy that you like his game, you like who he is, you like the cultural fit, and how he would slot into your personnel, and you go ahead and cast a wide net. That's why you were going to see multiple shooting guards. But then on Monday, the most recent one is to Koa, Koa Peat, Peat. I love this dude's name. That's awesome. He is a power forward out of Arizona. Right now, the number 3 player in the class of 2025 per 247 Sports. 6'8", 210. Again, a current sophomore out of Gilbert, Arizona. And I've watched some footage of him play. Gets to the rim, overpowers opponents. Of course, a lot of the footage I've seen is him against overmatched opponents. Need to see more of what he can do against true peers in terms of caliber of play. Want to see what his shot is, things like that. Right now, I've just seen a lot of drives or offensive rebounds and putbacks and things like that. Some good assists. But want to continue to watch it. But just right now, I just want to make you aware of these offers that are out there. So right now, 3 scholarship offers in the class of 2025, Isaiah Harwell, shooting guard, Darryn Peterson, shooting guard, and Koa Peat, a power forward. I want to camp out on some great news for the women's basketball team. This is another example of the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh away. Had lost some key contributors, including, curiously to me, Kennedy Todd Williams. And man, just still bummed about that loss for Coach Banghart and the Lady Tar Heels. But on Monday, we learned of a big time transfer coming in the form of Lexi Donarski, coming from Iowa State. She's played 3 years, so is a rising senior, but keep in mind that rising senior class is the last class that has COVID eligibility, so she technically has 2 years left if she would like to use it. She is a guard. Carolina is just racking up on stud guards, 6 feet tall. She is ranked 4th in 247's transfer portal rankings this offseason, and she brings with her just a high list of accolades. Was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year in 2020-21. And so, folks, I got to tell you, I am super, super excited for her addition to the Lady Tar Heels. Let me give you a couple reasons why. Number one, experience. She has started 95 games for the Cyclones in 3 years. So that's awesome. And Iowa State has been a solid team. Haven't made any Elite Eights or Final Fours or anything like that, but 2 seasons ago made the Sweet 16. They were 28-7, 14-4 overall, second in the Big 12. Finished 10th in the last AP poll that year. And their other 2 teams have been good, just not that level. And so brings not only that experience, but a winning culture at Iowa State, just like Carolina's working on building in Chapel Hill. So number one that I'm excited for is just the experience she brings to a group of experienced Tar Heels. I know there's going to be more newcomers this year, but there is a really solid veteran core. Obviously losing players like Kennedy Todd Williams hurts, but bringing in someone like Lexi is a big help. So reason number 2 I'm very excited about her is what she does offensively. 13.2 points per game for her career at Iowa State, 2.1 assists per game. For her career, she has shot 36.4% from three on 5.7 attempts per game. I love to see a number like that. Carolina has just all sorts of folks who can hit threes and add Lexi to the mix. Also, she is an 85.8% career free throw shooter. Yeah, let's get her to the line a lot. Would love to, in fact, see her free throw attempts per game come up. She averaged in her 3 years at Iowa State around 2. Would love to see that number get to 3 or 4, attack the rim, get in, make them respect you there so that you have more room for your 3, and vice versa, right? That all goes together. And I've said experience and offense, and what she brings offensively is phenomenal. But my girl Lexi is a two-way player and an absolute stud on defense. 3.2 rebounds per game, 0.8 steals. Sure, whatever. But keep in mind, you know this very well because of our man Leaky Black. It's not just about the numbers that tell the story. Watch her play defense. Watch her get into position, and it's recognized. 2 seasons ago, 2021-22, she was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. This year that we just finished, 2022-23, she was on the Big 12 All-Defensive team. And so, man, so not only is Lexi bringing double-digit scoring, great three-point shooting percentage, great free throw shooting percentage, she's going to help with that defense. And keep in mind, Carolina has already been a strong defensive unit. Think back to some of those Duke battles this most recent season, right? But she's going to help continue to grow that with what she brings from Iowa State. Also, don't forget, it's not just her coming in. Carolina has an already loaded and talented roster. Carolina has a loaded 4-person incoming class. And Maria Gakdang had already transferred in as well. And so love to see what Courtney Banghart is doing. And there's going to be some massive expectations on this team next year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But keep in mind, it's not just this year. Carolina's setting themselves up for future success as well. As we wrap today, just a little bit of sad football news. Jaquarius Conley entered the transfer portal on Monday, becomes the 5th defensive player in the spring transfer window to enter. And just hate to see, I mean, it feels like injuries have played a massive part in this decision. Had played really well as part of that Carolina secondary. And so to me, this shows the writing on the wall that he wasn't going to be a starter and is wanting to go somewhere where he will be, because some other guys have jumped him on the depth chart. And you love to see the talent, but that is at Carolina. But you hate to lose depth. You hate to lose somebody like Jaquarius Conley. And so best to him wherever he goes moving forward. Friends, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. Seriously, I would love to know your thoughts on my Jiren Stevenson wild hair. Let me know. Would be honored if you would go leave us a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you can find to leave reviews. I want to say a big word of thanks to Drew Henderson for his very kind review, and to Special Ed Teacher for your very kind review as well. So thanks to both of you for those recent reviews that have come in. Thanks so much for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen. I want to remind you, especially you everydayers, that we know you're going to be back tomorrow, that Coach Pat Kilby and I will be with you on Wednesday's show, looking at the shape of the roster as it is right now. We're going to get his takes on that, what's missing, what's added, what's gone, all of that kind of stuff. Going to be a great show. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow me at Isaac Shade. Email the show, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Subscribe, smash the like button. Again, would love to hear your comments. My friends, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, but until then, peace.